The city at midnight is a different beast altogether. The familiar streets, so alive and bustling during the day, transform into something almost unrecognizable. The neon signs flicker quietly, casting long shadows on the empty sidewalks, and the distant hum of traffic fades into a gentle, almost soothing background noise. By day, it's chaos. By night, a profound stillness settles in. The city's energy shifts, as if the buildings themselves are exhaling after a long, hectic day. The intersections, usually choked with cars and people, now stand empty, bathed in the soft glow of streetlights. I found myself walking under the pale street lamps, the air crisp with the scent of recent rain. Each step felt deliberate, echoing in the emptiness as if the city itself was listening. The reflections on the wet pavement shimmered, creating a dreamlike atmosphere that made everything feel suspended in time. The silence was a welcome companion, my footsteps echoing down deserted pavement. There was a strange comfort in the solitude, a sense that I was both completely alone and yet somehow connected to the city's hidden heartbeat. Shuttered shops and empty windows watched as I passed. The city paused, holding its breath. The storefronts, once vibrant and inviting, now seemed to guard their secrets, their darkened interiors hinting at stories left unfinished. There's a unique peace in having a city to yourself, a feeling of being the last person on earth. The vastness of the empty streets made every sound sharper, every movement more significant, as if the world had narrowed to just me and the city's silent gaze. But this night felt different. The quiet edged with tension. The stillness wasn't just peaceful, it was charged, as if something unseen lingered just out of sight, waiting. It was as if the city wasn't sleeping, but watching, waiting for something to break the spell. The glowing windows hinted at lives continuing behind closed doors, unseen but present, adding to the sense of anticipation. I pulled my jacket tighter, unsettled by the vastness and the heavy silence. Every shadow seemed deeper, every alleyway more mysterious, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being observed by the city itself. I kept walking, boots tapping a steady rhythm, unaware that the calm was about to shatter. The anticipation in the air grew with every step, as if the city was holding back a secret just for me. The night was about to reveal something I could never have imagined, and in that moment, the city's stillness felt both inviting and ominous, a prelude to whatever was waiting in the shadows. That's when I saw him. It was late, the kind of hour when the city feels like it's holding its breath, and every shadow seems to stretch a little longer than it should. Far down the street, a figure emerged at the edge of the lamplight. The glow from the street lamp barely touched him, but it was enough to make out the outline of someone stepping into view, as if materializing from the darkness itself. At first, just a silhouette, nothing unusual in a city of millions. People come and go at all hours, and I told myself it was probably just another late-night wanderer. But as we drew closer, his movement caught my attention. There was something off, something that made me slow my pace without even realizing it. He didn't walk, he swayed, arms swinging too widely, legs bending at odd angles. Each step seemed exaggerated, almost as if he was performing for an invisible audience. It was a dance, bizarre and out of place in the dead quiet. The rhythm of his movements clashed with the stillness, making the scene feel even more surreal. I tried to rationalize. Maybe he was drunk or lost in music. Maybe he was just someone letting loose, escaping the world for a moment in his own way. But the unease grew as the silence amplified his strange, theatrical gait. There was no music, no laughter, just the sound of my own footsteps and the distant hum of the city. The world shrank to just me and this approaching figure. The empty street felt like a stage, and I was suddenly aware of how alone I was. Under a street lamp I saw him more clearly, a tall man in a shabby, old-fashioned suit. The fabric looked worn, as if it belonged to another era, and he seemed oddly out of place against the modern city backdrop. His head was tilted back, staring at the sky, or perhaps at nothing at all. His eyes didn't seem to focus on anything, and his mouth hung slightly open, as if he was lost in a trance. The sight was deeply, profoundly odd. It was the kind of strangeness that makes your skin prickle, the kind you can't explain away with logic or reason. Something about him was wrong and I couldn't look away. My mind raced with questions. Who was he and what was he doing out here moving like that? The city's silence made his presence even more unsettling. Every sound seemed to vanish, leaving only the echo of his footsteps and the pounding of my heart. I kept walking, heart pounding as he drew nearer. Each step felt heavier, as if the air itself had thickened, and I realized I was holding my breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The distance closed, and under the next street lamp, I saw his face. His smile was enormous, splitting his face in half, a manic, cartoonish grin. But this was no mask. The skin at the corners of his mouth was pulled tight, creased into deep, unnatural lines. His eyes were wide, vacant, devoid of warmth. The combination was chilling, a grotesque parody of joy. It was the expression of something only pretending to be human. My heart hammered, every instinct screaming that something was wrong. The smile was a violation of the natural order, a glitch in reality. As he swayed closer, the grin never faltered, a beacon in the darkness. I couldn't look away, even as fear numbed my limbs. I'd faced dangers before, but nothing prepared me for the silent terror of that impossible smile. The streetlights seemed to conspire, casting his grin as the only light in the void. The most unsettling part was the silence. His exaggerated movements made no sound. He glided, utterly noiseless. My own footsteps sounded deafening, announcing my fear. I stopped, frozen under a street lamp, watching him approach. He didn't stop. His silent, swaying dance continued. The lack of sound was more terrifying than any scream. It made him seem ethereal, a phantom given horrifying form. The silence was a weapon, amplifying the horror of his grin. I strained to hear anything, his clothes, his breath. But there was nothing. The city felt as if it was holding its breath with me. He was real, and he was getting closer with every silent step. The silence gave him a supernatural quality, isolating me in a bubble of fear. I was trapped, alone with this impossible, soundless entity. With me standing still, his approach became deliberate. The distance shrank, 50 meters, 40, 30. His swaying dance never changed, hypnotic and disturbing. I was rooted to the spot, my mind struggling to process the scene. Up close, the smile was even worse. Stretched to a waxy sheen, eyes fixed on me. The emptiness in his gaze was a void, absorbing all hope. My body screamed to run, but I was paralyzed. The sheer wrongness of the situation overloaded my senses. All that remained was raw, primal fear. 20 meters, close enough to see the texture of his suit, his matted hair. The smile never wavered, a mask of flesh and bone. His head tilted back, looking down at me with condescending menace. The silence persisted, suffocating. My own ragged breaths were the only sound in the thick atmosphere of fear. The spell finally broke. He was 10 meters away when I moved, a single shuffling step back. The sound of my shoe scraping the pavement exploded in the silence. Instantly, his dance stopped. He straightened, head lowering, eyes locking onto mine. The smile remained, but now it was personal, predatory. The emptiness in his gaze was replaced by focused malice. My fear had been acknowledged, and it seemed to delight him. The urge to flee became overwhelming. I took another step back, then another, retreating, clumsily. I couldn't look away, afraid he'd close the distance if I blinked. He stayed perfectly still, watching, letting me widen the gap. It was a cat-and-mouse game, and he was enjoying it. The psychological pressure was immense. The street behind me felt impossibly long, safety a distant hope. We stood locked in a silent standoff under the orange light. Me, shuffling backward in terror. Him, perfectly still, a statue of mockery. His stare was a physical force, pressing down on me. It was pure malice, peeling back my defenses, exposing my fear. The world outside this corridor of pavement ceased to exist. This was a psychological assault, dismantling my sense of safety. His stillness was more menacing than his dance. He was a predator, waiting for the perfect moment. The silence stretched, taut, and fragile. I kept moving backward, desperate to escape his gaze. The breaking point came when he moved again. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, a shift in posture, a tilt of the head, as if he was waiting for a signal only he could hear. The air felt heavier, charged with a tension that made every sound sharper, every shadow deeper. No more dance, just a slow, deliberate step forward. Each footfall seemed to echo with intent, the measured pace of someone who knew exactly what they wanted. He was stalking now, movement smooth and silent. There was a predatory grace to the way he moved, as if he was savoring the moment, drawing out the fear. The game was over, the chase had begun, the rules had changed, and I could feel the shift in the air, a primal urge to flee rising inside me. My composure snapped, I turned and ran. Instinct took over, adrenaline flooding my veins as I bolted into the night, heart pounding in my chest. I didn't look back. The image of that smile burned into my mind. It was twisted, unnatural, and it followed me even as I tried to escape it. I ran with blind, panicked desperation, lungs burning, legs aching. Every breath felt like fire, but I couldn't stop, not for a second. The only thought, put distance between myself and that thing. The city felt endless, every block stretching out before me like a maze with no exit. My footsteps echoed, a stark contrast to his silence. The sound was a reminder that I was still alone, still vulnerable, still being hunted. I didn't know if he was following, and the not knowing was worse. Every instinct screamed at me to keep moving, to never slow down. Every shadow threatened, every flicker of light a trick. The city itself seemed to conspire against me, hiding him in its darkest corners. I risked a glance back. He stood under a street lamp, perfectly still, watching. His presence was a chilling reminder that I was never truly out of his sight. He wasn't chasing. His stillness was a final silent taunt. It was as if he knew fear would do the work for him, that my terror was enough. It was a message: you can run, but you can't escape. The words echoed in my mind, chilling me more than the night air ever could. I burst onto a busier street, the presence of others a lifeline. The noise and light felt like a shield, fragile but desperately needed. But the haunting image of the smiling man was seared into my memory. Even surrounded by people, I knew the fear would follow me long after the night was over. I never saw the smiling man again. That night, I stuck to busy streets, heart leaping at every tall figure. Sleep was impossible. His grin haunted my mind. No news reports, no other sightings. He vanished as if he'd never existed. The lack of explanation is more frightening than any answer. I've become wary of quiet streets, scanning crowds for a too-wide smile. The smiling man exists in that gray area between reality and nightmare, and sometimes late at night I can almost feel it. The echo of a silent, swaying dance, and the unforgettable image of a smile that should not be. Some stories start with a bang, a sudden noise, a flash of light, but the ones that haunt you begin in silence. Picture this. It's past midnight in a city that's finally quiet. Streetlights cast lonely pools of orange on empty pavement. You're walking alone. The only sound, your own footsteps. There's a heaviness in the air, a sense that something's about to happen. This is where our story begins. A regular guy, just trying to get home after a late night. He wasn't looking for trouble. He was just another face in the city. That's what makes this story so chilling. The idea that the bizarre can find you anywhere. At first, it wasn't fear, just unease, that primal instinct that makes the hairs on your neck stand up. You glance over your shoulder. Nothing's there. Just you and the sleeping city. The witness described it perfectly. He felt watched, an urge to walk faster, a gut warning that something was wrong. This sixth sense is common in stories of the unexplained, the calm before the storm. For our witness, the quiet was about to be shattered. Not by a sound, but by a sight so strange, it would change his world forever. He was about to meet a mystery known only for one thing: its smile. The stage was set for a true-life horror story. Sometimes the most terrifying things don't need an invitation. They just appear, turning the familiar into something alien. And so, the nightmare began. As he walked, his eyes caught a figure ahead, standing under a distant streetlight. A man, nothing unusual, until he started dancing. Not a joyful dance, but a jerky, unnatural waltz, like something out of a distorted silent film. The witness paused, curiosity mixing with dread. Who dances like that, alone, at night? Maybe he was drunk, the witness thought, but the movements were too precise, too deliberate. There was an eerie purpose to the performance, and the witness was the only audience. He crossed the street, hoping to avoid the man, but as soon as he changed course, the figure stopped dancing. Slowly, the man turned to face him, even from across the empty street. The dance was over. Something new and far more terrifying was beginning. Even from a distance, the witness could see the man's face, or rather, his smile. It wasn't friendly, it was impossibly wide, showing too many teeth, a fixed painted-on grin. The man stood perfectly still, staring, the smile stretching wider in the gloom. The feeling of being watched was now undeniable. The performance wasn't for himself, it was for the witness. The witness's heart pounded. The city felt suddenly empty, except for the two of them. The encounter had shifted from strange to sinister. The nightmare was just beginning. The man began to move toward the witness, but it wasn't a normal walk. It was exaggerated, tiptoeing, almost cartoonish. His body leaned forward at an impossible angle, head level, eyes locked, smile unbroken. The logical explanations vanished. This was something else. The witness was frozen, mesmerized by the wrongness of it all. The smiling man closed the distance with unnerving speed, gliding silently. No footsteps, no sound, just the witness's own ragged breathing. Every instinct screamed, "Run!" He turned and walked quickly, hoping the man would lose interest. But a glance over his shoulder showed the smiling man was closer, moving faster, still silent, still smiling. The man wasn't just walking. He was hunting. The witness was prey, pursued by something that didn't move or behave like a person. The time for walking was over. He broke into a run. The city shrank to just the two of them. The chase had begun. The witness's only thought, escape. The nightmare was in full motion. That smile, grotesque, stretched wide, revealing too many perfect teeth, was the most disturbing part. It never changed, no matter what the man did. Dancing, staring, chasing, always the same, static grin. It was inhuman, a mask of manic glee with no connection to real emotion. The eyes were just as unsettling, wide, unblinking, locked onto the witness. Even as the man moved, his gaze never wavered. It was a predator's focus. "I see you. You matter to me." There was no escape from that stare. The combination of the smile and the unbroken eye contact was pure psychological terror. This wasn't just a random encounter, it was a targeted pursuit. The smiling man had chosen his victim. That face, with its silent, screaming grin, would haunt the witness forever. The nightmare had a face, and it was smiling. The witness ran, no longer a choice, but a primal reaction. His feet pounded the pavement, lungs burning, every shadow a threat. He hoped he could outrun the smiling man, clinging to logic in a situation that had none. He ran block after block, desperate for safety. Finally, he risked a glance back. The smiling man was still there, closer than before. He wasn't running, just gliding forward with those bizarre tiptoeing strides, impossibly fast. The laws of physics didn't seem to apply. The witness realized he couldn't outrun this thing. The chase was no longer about escape, it was about survival. The terror was real, gaining on him with every step. The city was a blur, the only reality was the horror behind him. The smiling man was relentless, the witness's hope faded, the nightmare was closing in. He had to keep running. The most terrifying part? The smiling man made no sound. The witness's own footsteps and gasps filled the night, but his pursuer was silent. No footsteps, no breathing, just a ghost gliding through the darkness. The silence was wrong, amplifying the fear. Each time the witness looked back, the smiling man was there, closer, always silent. It was like being hunted by a nightmare, something that didn't obey the rules of reality. The smiling man's silence made him inevitable, unstoppable. The witness felt clumsy, mortal, compared to the silent, graceful horror behind him. This wasn't just a chase, it was the natural world being pursued by the unnatural. The silence was a message. I am not like you. The rules don't apply to me. The witness was running from more than a man, he was running from the impossible. The terror was absolute. The silence was the smiling man's greatest weapon. The nightmare was relentless. The witness saw a main road ahead, lights, the hope of other people. He ran harder, lungs screaming, desperate for safety. One last look back, the smiling man was almost on top of him, face clear in the dim light, smile impossibly wide. Still, no sound, just that silent gliding advance. The terror broke something in the witness, propelling him forward with a final burst of speed. He burst onto the main road, blinded by headlights, the noise of a passing car shocking him back to reality. He stopped, turned, expecting to see his pursuer. But the side street was empty. The smiling man had vanished, gone as suddenly as he'd appeared. No trace, no explanation. The witness stood trembling, the silence now forever tainted. He was safe, but changed. The city's quiet was no longer comforting. The nightmare had ended, but its shadow lingered. The smiling man was gone from the street, but the memory remained. The silence was now a warning. The horror was not over. The witness made it home, locked the door, and collapsed, shaking. The physical chase was over, but the psychological scars were just beginning. In his flat, the night felt unreal, but the terror was real. He spent hours peering through curtains, expecting to see that smile again. Sleep brought nightmares, always the chase, always the smile. The encounter left a deep scar. The world no longer felt safe. He avoided walking alone at night, always on edge. He shared his story online, seeking validation and warning others. The story went viral, striking a chord with people everywhere. It became modern folklore, a digital campfire tale. The witness stayed anonymous, never seeking fame. The smiling man was gone from the street, but not from his mind. The true horror was the aftermath, the knowledge that such things might exist. So, what was the smiling man? That's the question that lingers. Was he a person, a prankster? The details defy explanation. The silence, the speed, the vanishing act, none of it fits a simple answer. Was it a hallucination? The witness insists it was real. The trauma, the exhaustion, the terror, none of it felt imagined. Maybe it was something else, something we don't have a name for. The smiling man joins the ranks of legends and nightmares. Some mysteries are better left unsolved. The smiling man remains. A silent, grinning enigma in the darkness, and sometimes he comes out to play. It starts with a flicker on a screen, a single story, someone walking home late at night, empty streets, a city asleep. Then, they see him, a man, dancing a bizarre, jerky waltz. His movements are unnatural, his presence chilling. As he draws closer, his face comes into view, a smile so wide it distorts his features, a mask of pure menace. This is not a partygoer, this is something else. The legend begins, not in a book, but online. One unsettling story posted on a forum, soon others reply. They've seen him too. Different cities, different nights, but always the same man with the terrible smile. The details match, late hour, empty streets, a sense of primal dread. The internet becomes a vessel for a shared nightmare. The story spreads, Reddit, Twitter, late-night conversations. Is he real? A ghost? Or just a story born from modern anxieties? No one knows. The uncertainty is the most chilling part. Witnesses describe feeling hunted, as if the smiling man is a predator and they are prey. He doesn't just pass by. He sees you, focuses on you, his smile meant only for you. It's an invitation to a dance you never wanted. The legend is not just a story. For those who've seen him, it's a memory that haunts forever. The smiling man has no name, no history. He just appears, smiles, and terrifies. The original post is a spark, igniting fear across the digital world. Strangers thousands of miles apart are suddenly united by a single terrifying figure. The smiling man steps from a single story into a modern myth. The internet is a strange place, a library of knowledge, and a collection of our deepest fears. In quiet corners of online forums, people share stories they'd never tell in person. The smiling man appears again and again, late, alone, always smiling. From Chicago to Tokyo, the legend spreads. These forums become sanctuaries for the terrified. The smiling man steps out from the shadows and into the collective consciousness, and the whispers never stop. Let's talk about the smile, the detail that burns into every witness's memory. It's not happy or friendly. It's grotesque, predatory, inhuman, stretched from ear to ear, teeth too big, too sharp, like a shark's, or a cartoon gone wrong. The smile never reaches the eyes. In fact, most can't remember his eyes at all. Only the fixed, painted-on grin of pure malice. The consistency is chilling. People continents apart describe the same unnatural smile. This isn't just, I saw a creepy guy. It's, I saw a man whose face broke the rules of anatomy. That shared, specific detail elevates the smiling man from urban legend to genuine mystery. Another recurring detail: the dance. A waltz, puppet-like, head tilted back, eyes to the sky, gliding and twirling for an audience of one, you. The joyful movement paired with the predatory smile creates a deep sense of wrongness. It's a perversion of something that should be happy. This wrongness is what causes the profound fear. And then, the silence. The smiling man never speaks. He just dances, smiles, and stares. The silence is more frightening than any threat. It leaves everything to the imagination. What does he want? Why is he doing this? The only sound is the scuff of shoes on pavement, making the encounter feel dreamlike, nightmarish. It's a silent film horror, playing out in real life. The face you can't forget is attached to a figure you can't understand. That's the perfect storm of inexplicable terror. The legend endures because the image is unforgettable. The smile is a scar on the memory. And once you've seen it, you never truly escape it. The smiling man is a face you can't forget. The smiling man isn't bound by borders. Reports come from Seoul, São Paulo, Rome, everywhere. The geography changes, but the man remains the same. Skeptics blame the internet. A story goes viral, and people see what they expect. It's psychological contagion, they say. But, for those who've seen him, the global spread suggests something more. Is he a spirit? A being from another dimension? A modern bogeyman? The lack of rational explanation forces us to consider the irrational. The stories share the same unnerving core, a sense of dread, the strange dance, the awful smile. Whether real or imagined, the smiling man taps into a universal fear, a fear of the unknown predator that smiles. The legend is global, and so is the terror. No matter where you are, he could be waiting. In a world of cameras and constant documentation, where's the evidence? Hundreds of stories, but not a single clear photo or video. Skeptics say this proves he's not real, just a story, a digital age phantom, but witnesses describe a paralysis, a fear so intense they can't even reach for their phones. Some try, but their hands shake, the photos are blurry, the figure gone or obscured. It's as if he can't be captured, as if technology itself fails in his presence. This inability to prove his existence becomes part of the legend. The lack of evidence doesn't debunk the story. For many, it makes it more terrifying. There's no way to prove he exists, only the memory, the fear, the cold sweat. The smiling man slips through the cracks of our digital reality. He is a ghost in the machine, a glitch in the system. The proof is not a photo, but the lingering dread. The legend thrives on what can't be shown. The smiling man is proof that some fears can't be captured, only felt, and that's what makes him so powerful. Fear isolates, but it also unites. Many who encounter the smiling man feel alone, afraid to share their story, but then they find the forums, the threads, the others. Suddenly, they're not alone. A community forms, people from everywhere, bonded by a common nightmare. Strangers offer support, share coping tips, and discuss the lingering anxiety. The forum becomes a safe space, a place to be believed. They are not just random individuals, they are witnesses, survivors. The community keeps the legend alive, collecting stories, mapping sightings, connecting the dots. It's a crowdsourced investigation, turning isolated tales into a cohesive narrative. The legend grows because the community refuses to let it fade. They are the archivists, the investigators, the keepers of the smiling man. In facing terror, they find belonging. The smiling man's greatest legacy may be the community he created. Out of fear, something lasting is built. The legend is more than a story. It's a shared experience, and together, they keep the nightmare alive. The smiling man is as much theirs as he is anyone's. Every new story adds a layer to the mystery. The legend evolves, growing with each encounter shared online. At first, it was simple. A man, a dance, a smile. Now some say he follows them, appears multiple times, moves with impossible speed. Others report a high-pitched ringing during encounters. The rules change, the threat escalates. The smiling man becomes more powerful in the collective imagination. The legend leaks into YouTube, podcasts, fiction, reaching wider audiences. More people look over their shoulders at night. The more who know, the more he is seen. The legend feeds itself, a feedback loop of fear and fascination. The line between paranormal event and cultural phenomenon blurs. The smiling man is everywhere, impossible to ignore. Is he real? At this point, does it matter? He is real in our minds, and that's enough. The legend grows louder, the smile wider, and the world keeps watching. What is it about the smiling man that captures us so completely? The mystery is a puzzle with no solution, no easy answers, just endless questions. Human curiosity is drawn to the unexplained. The smiling man is the ultimate modern enigma. He taps into primal fear. The predator hiding in plain sight, the smile turns sinister. He's a uniquely modern monster, born on the internet, spreading through technology, existing between real and digital. In an age of surveillance, he cannot be captured. He is a glitch in the matrix, a ghost in the machine. The story reflects our anxieties, urban loneliness, digital connection, the unknown in the familiar. The smiling man is a mirror for our fears. We can't look away because in a way, we all know him. He is the dread we feel when we're alone in the dark. And that's why the legend endures. Years have passed since the first story appeared. The threads are longer, the collection vast, but the mystery remains unsolved. No proof, no unmasking, no answers. The smiling man endures, a ghost story for the digital age. The lack of resolution is why the story haunts us. He's never caught, never defeated, just a lingering dread, a memory that won't fade. The story is never truly over. The next encounter could happen tonight. The community thrives, welcoming new members, offering understanding. Out of fear, people found each other and built something lasting. The smiling man continues his silent, waltzing journey through our collective consciousness. Is he real, a mass delusion, or the greatest ghost story ever told? Perhaps we'll never know. And that's the point. His power lies in the questions he forces us to ask. He is a shadow on the edge of vision, a whisper in the digital dark, and a smile that, once seen, never truly fades. Some stories aren't meant for the campfire. They're too real, too close. They live in the quiet streets of our towns, waiting in the shadows as we walk home at night. The legend of the smiling man feels ancient, a primal fear given a face. Tall, thin, in an old suit, with a grotesquely wide grin. His movements are theatrical, a waltz down the pavement. The legend began with one account, a young man walking alone at night. Others soon came forward, echoing the same details. The tall man, the strange dance, the terrible smile. It taps into a universal fear, the unknown on a lonely street. The smiling man legend is a journey into one of the most disturbing urban myths of our time, a nightmare that simply smiles back. This is the legend of the grinning shadow. The story that started it all is terrifyingly ordinary. A university student, walking home after midnight, enjoying the solitude. The streets are empty, the city asleep. He feels safe, until he sees a figure in the distance. A man, dancing an old-fashioned waltz down the street. At first, the student is just curious. Maybe the man is drunk, or playing a prank. He crosses the street to avoid him, but keeps watching. The man's head is tilted back, eyes wide, movements bizarre. The student glances back. The man has stopped, facing him, grinning impossibly wide. Dread creeps in. This isn't a drunk, this is something else. The silence feels heavy, threatening. The student walks faster, hoping it's over. But when he looks forward, the man is there. Closer. On the same side of the street. He crossed the distance in silence, the smile even wider. The student's heart pounds. The nightmare has begun. He tries to rationalize, but fear takes over. The man's presence is overwhelming, unnatural. The student's world has changed forever. He realizes he's not alone. Something is watching, waiting. The encounter is burned into his memory. It's the start of a legend. The smiling man's story spreads, one chilling detail at a time. The fear is contagious. The legend grows, and the streets never feel safe again. The first encounter is never truly the last. The smiling man is always out there, waiting, and his smile is impossible to forget. The nightmare is real. Face to face with the smiling man, the student is paralyzed by fear. The man stands motionless, his grin a slash across his face, eyes unblinking, no footsteps, no sound, he simply appears. The street lamp distorts his features, making him seem inhuman. The student wants to run, but can't move. Then, the smiling man resumes his eerie waltz, moving closer with exaggerated tiptoeing steps. It's a predator's dance, arms out, body swaying. The student steps back, but the man keeps pace. A silent, dreadful chase. Panic breaks the spell. The student runs, not daring to look back. The street is empty. Hope flickers. But ahead, under the next street lamp, the smiling man waits, still smiling. He hasn't run, he's just there. The student realizes, you can't outrun this thing. It doesn't follow the rules of reality. The dance is a pursuit, and the student is the prize. Terror is absolute, a cold, suffocating blanket. The smiling man is always one step ahead. The chase is psychological, not physical. The student's fear is the real target. The encounter ends, but the fear lingers. The smiling man's presence is unforgettable. The dance of dread never truly ends. Every empty street becomes a stage for the nightmare. The legend is alive, haunting those who hear it. The smiling man is a shadow you can't escape. His dance is a warning, his smile is a curse, and the fear is forever. The nightmare continues. The smiling man's story spread, leaving chilling questions in its wake. What is he? Theories abound, each more unsettling than the last. Some say he's human, a disturbed individual, a cruel prankster, but that doesn't explain his impossible movements, his silent appearances. Others believe he's supernatural, a ghost, a demon, or something nameless. If he's not human, what does he want? Some think he's a harbinger of doom, a bad omen. Others see him as a territorial spirit, warning intruders to stay away. The most disturbing theory, he's something entirely unknown from another dimension. A being whose motives are alien, impossible to understand. This makes him truly terrifying, beyond our comprehension, beyond our control. He's a glitch in reality, a walking nightmare. Every new story deepens the mystery. The only certainty is the fear he leaves behind. The smiling man defies explanation. He's not just a legend, he's a question with no answer. Theories multiply, but the truth remains elusive. He could be anyone, or anything. The legend grows with every encounter. The fear is real, even if the answers aren't. The smiling man is a puzzle that haunts the night, and the mystery only gets darker. What is he? No one knows, and that's what makes him so terrifying. One theory stands out. The smiling man is a predator, but not for flesh. He hunts for fear, feeding on terror. His strange dance, his silent pursuit, his grin, they're all part of the act. He doesn't want to harm physically, he wants to break you mentally. The initial dance draws you in, curiosity turning to unease. The sudden, silent approach shatters your sense of safety. You can't outrun him, can't escape. Helplessness is his goal. Once you're consumed by terror, he leaves. He's had his meal. That's why he never touches anyone. The psychological torment is the point. He's an emotional vampire, draining courage and safety. Victims are left physically unharmed, but mentally scarred. The memory is a wound that never heals. If true, this makes him a monstrous entity. An intelligent hunter of the mind. He knows exactly how to push us into panic. He's a parasite thriving on our deepest anxieties. The dark, the unknown, being hunted. The smile isn't happiness, it's the triumph of a predator. The smiling man is the perfect hunter for the human mind. His weapon is fear, and his victory is your terror. The legend is a warning. Some things feed on more than flesh. The smiling man is always hungry, and his smile means he's found his next meal. The fear is the feast. The legend endures because the fear never fades. The smiling man is always out there, waiting for the next frightened soul. And his grin is the last thing you'll remember. Why do only some people see the smiling man? Maybe he's drawn to vulnerability, those who are sad, lonely, or anxious. Perhaps the encounter is a warning, a wake-up call for those on a dangerous path. Or maybe it's random, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. This randomness is the most terrifying. Anyone could be next. The smiling man is a force of nature, unpredictable and uncontrollable. Whether curse or warning, his selection is a mystery, and that uncertainty is what keeps us looking over our shoulders. After the first story, others began sharing their own encounters. From cities and towns worldwide, the details echoed: a tall man, old suit, bizarre dance, inhuman smile. A woman in Chicago saw him dancing under a flickering light, then leaping silently toward her. A group in England found him waltzing alone in a playground, grinning as the music stopped. Each story ends the same pure, primal terror. The smiling man isn't tied to one place. He's a global phenomenon. He appears to the lonely and the groups, in cities and small towns. The consistency of the stories is chilling. It's hard to dismiss so many similar accounts. It feels like they've all seen the same thing. The smiling man is a shared nightmare. The legend grows with every new sighting, the fear spreads, and the smile haunts them all. The most haunting part of the legend is the smile. Witnesses describe it in vivid, horrifying detail, a wide, toothy grin that splits the face. It's not happiness, but pure malevolence. The smile becomes a symbol of fear, haunting dreams and waking moments. Some develop a phobia of smiling faces, their perception forever changed. The smiling man twists a positive expression into something monstrous. His smile is a psychological attack, more effective than any weapon. The memory is a prison. Witnesses are trapped with it forever. The smile is his tool, his weapon, his curse. He doesn't need to touch or speak, just smile. And that smile does the damage. It haunts, torments, and follows for life. The original storyteller said it best: he never wanted to see that smile again. The smiling man's power is in the memory he leaves behind. The smile is unforgettable, and it never fades. The mystery of the smiling man remains unsolved. No evidence, no photos, just chilling stories. Skeptics call it a modern urban legend, a digital campfire tale, but for believers, the lack of proof is part of the mystery. The smiling man fits the profile of something that shouldn't exist. He's become a permanent part of modern folklore, a new kind of monster. He represents the fear of random, meaningless threats. Whether man, myth, or something else, his story endures. The smiling man's smile continues to haunt imaginations. The legend lives on, and the mystery endures.